Welcome back to another explainer. Today, we're diving into a piece of source material that tackles a struggle I'm pretty sure almost all of us face: waking up and actually getting the day started on the right foot. We're breaking down the morning routine that beats motivation. Look, if you've ever set an alarm for 5:30 a.m. with the absolute best of intentions, only to repeatedly mash that snooze button when the sun actually comes up, bargaining with yourself for just 5 more minutes, well, this explainer is exactly for you. We're going to look at a framework that guarantees a morning routine that actually lasts. And the secret? It completely ignores the concept of motivation. Let's just jump right in. So, let's start by asking a really core question here. Why do most morning routines fail? I mean, we see it all the time, right? People read a book or they watch some CEO's interview, and suddenly they're trying to adopt this hyper-complex 2-hour morning ritual. But the source material makes a really fascinating point right out of the gate. It says we fail because we're operating under this total illusion that waking up early requires massive, heroic motivation. We kind of think we need to feel insanely inspired the very second our eyes open. But honestly, relying on motivation at 6 a.m. is a losing battle for the vast majority of us. And the contrast between what we plan and what actually happens is pretty wild. We've all seen the quote-unquote best day routine, right? You're meditating, running a 10K, journaling your deepest thoughts, and then blending some meticulously sourced green juice. It sounds great. But most routines are designed for this absolute best-case scenario, like when you've had 9 flawless hours of sleep and the weather is perfect. But let's be real, that totally ignores the reality of our worst day, hitting snooze 4 times and blindly doom scrolling in the dark. The fatal flaw in modern productivity advice is that it designs our lives for the best-case scenario while completely ignoring the reality of the worst. That brings us perfectly to Section 1, the motivation trap, and why we really need to stop relying on 6 a.m. willpower. The source hits us with this incredibly freeing quote. It says, you don't need motivation at 6 a.m. You need a routine so simple you can do it half asleep. And the absolutely crucial point here is simplicity. You really shouldn't need a high emotional state or some dramatic rise and grind pep talk in the bathroom mirror just to get your day going. Think about it. If your routine requires you to feel good just to execute it, it's inherently fragile. The goal isn't to build a routine for the days you feel like an absolute champion. No, it's to build a routine that you can easily execute when you're half asleep and honestly feel terrible. So let's shift gears and look at Section 2, the worst day routine, featuring 4 specific steps to guarantee momentum. Okay, let's dive into the actual blueprint. This is the practical core of the source material, a routine built specifically to survive those worst days we talked about. It's just 4 steps. Step 1, feet on the floor, no phone. Step 2, 1 glass of water. Step 3, 5 minutes of movement. And step 4, write 1 task. Notice how brisk, how almost mechanical that is? There's no hype here, no curated Spotify playlist required to get you going. These are purely physical actions that require absolutely zero emotional buy-in. You don't have to be happy to do them, you literally just have to do them. Let's break these down one by one so we can see exactly why they work so well. Step 1 centers entirely around the number 10. The very first action you take is putting your feet on the floor and avoiding your phone for the first 10 minutes. Why 10 minutes? Well, according to the source, your waking brain is highly impressionable right after you open your eyes. It's literally waking up and trying to figure out what kind of day it's going to be. Whatever you feed it first completely sets the tone for hours to come. If you immediately flood it with the stress of your work inbox or that cheap dopamine hit of social media, you instantly surrender control of your morning. So, guarding those first 10 minutes is the foundational boundary of this entire system. Step 2 is incredibly straightforward. Just drink 1 glass of water. Now, the reasoning behind this is pretty fascinating. The source emphasizes that this isn't for some magical health or detox reason. Not at all. It is purely a physical action designed specifically to break the still-in-bed state. When you pour and drink a glass of water, you're forcing your body to engage in a physical sequence that tells your brain, hey, we're no longer resting, we are active. It acts as this simple biological transition mechanism that snaps you right out of that lingering sleep inertia. Next up is step 3, represented by the number 5. This stands for 5 minutes of movement, and the source makes it very, very clear. The goal here is not fitness. You are not trying to get a heavy, sweaty workout in. Honestly, it doesn't even matter what you do. It could be some light stretching, walking around the kitchen, or just doing a few jumping jacks. The sole purpose of these 5 minutes is to wake up the physical body before your mind has the chance to start negotiating with you. You know exactly what I mean. That internal lawyer that wakes up and argues for just 5 more minutes in a nice warm bed. By physically moving for 5 minutes, you preemptively fire that lawyer and completely shut down the negotiation. And finally, step 4 brings us to the number 1. You are going to write down exactly one task that matters today. Not 5 tasks, not a massive, overwhelming to-do list, just one single thing. This is the one task that, if absolutely nothing else got done today, would still make the day a win. By isolating this one priority while the house is quiet, before the chaos of the day actually begins, you create immediate clarity for yourself. You now have a North Star for your entire day, and the best part, you achieved it without needing a single ounce of motivation. Which brings us to section 3, why small habits survive, focusing on momentum over emotion. Let's look at this really powerful quote from the source. Small routines survive contact with a bad night's sleep, a stressful week, or zero motivation at all. This right here is the underlying science of survival when it comes to habit formation. Think about it. Big, elaborate routines get skipped the absolute second that life gets hard. If your routine requires you to feel 100%, what happens when you only feel 40%? You just do nothing. But small, friction-free routines, they endure. And honestly, it is such a relief. They are so ridiculously easy that you have no excuse not to do them, even when everything else feels like it's going wrong. What we're talking about here is a total paradigm shift, moving from emotion to momentum. Emotion is fragile, right? It constantly asks you, how do you feel today? And if the answer is bad, well, the routine dies right then and there. Momentum, on the other hand, is robust. It never asks how you feel. It only asks, did you do the mechanical steps? The beauty of this entire framework is that by simply completing those 4 physical steps we just talked about, you automatically generate momentum. And once that momentum is created, it takes over all the heavy lifting for the rest of your day, regardless of what your mood was when you woke up.
Let's quickly summarize the long-term benefits of doing it this way. First off, this approach survives zero motivation because it entirely removes your feelings from the equation. And because it does that, it builds true year-long consistency. In fact, the author of the source material notes they've maintained a version of this exact streak for over a year. The days they don't feel like doing anything are the exact days this routine really proves its worth. It relies purely on momentum. It's like you don't have to push the boulder all the way up the hill yourself. You just give it a tiny nudge in the morning and let physics do the rest of the work.
And now we've reached our final section, your 7-day challenge, which is all about building sustainable discipline. The source material leaves us with a very specific, low-stakes call to action. On day 1, you simply start the 4 mechanical steps. That's it. By day 3, you're probably going to wake up tired, and this is where you actively practice surviving a low-motivation morning by just checking off those 4 little boxes. And by day 7, you're going to find that momentum starts taking over naturally. The challenge here isn't to try this because it's flashy or exciting, because it's not. You try it because it's sustainable. It is a real system designed for real human beings living real, messy lives. So I want to leave you with this provocative thought from today's explainer. What if your worst day could still be a win? If you can strip away the need for inspiration and just rely on a foolproof mechanical sequence, you can fundamentally change how you operate. Now, this explainer covers just day 2 of the source material's 7-part discipline series. If fixing your worst morning can fundamentally change your output, just imagine what the other 6 parts will do to the rest of your week. So, what's it going to be? Will you hope for motivation tomorrow, or will you just follow the steps? Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I will see you next time.